All right. All right. Well, Jesus is going to have to fix your attitude, young lady. Hey, real quick, before we get into Mark chapter 5, I neglected to announce, apologies, Nick, that Nick is also graduating from Lakeland. He will be heading off to four-year college once that all gets worked out. But we appreciate you, Nick. We're proud of you. And next Sunday afternoon, they're having an open house beginning at 4, right? And they want to just invite everybody in the church. They'll have information next week about it. But if you want to go, just let them know. And be a good time. Obviously, you saw that my daughter and son-in-law and my grandbaby are here. And double bonus, tomorrow my son is supposed to show up. So I'll actually get to see both of my kids at the same time for a couple of days. So we're really, really looking forward to that. Number of years ago, I was in college. So they had just discovered electricity. But we were involved in the church up in Urbana, or Urbana Assembly of God, now called Stone Creek. And there was a lady in that church, one of those creative people that is just so annoyingly creative. You know what I mean? I mean, this lady, musically talented, gifted writer, she just had this creative bent to her that was just amazing. So she wrote a play about the life of Jesus, and they held tryouts for the play. It was the church was large enough where there was a lot of people that might be involved in this play. It was a pretty big production, and they invited a whole variety of people to come in and try out for different parts and do some different things. And she came to me because she had a part for me. Not because I was the best-looking college kid there. Not because I was the smartest. Not because I was the one with the most history in drama. She came to me for a very specific part because she was pretty sure that I was the only person who would scream in church. She wanted me to play the part of the demon-possessed man in the Gadarenes. And I know some of you are saying, typecasting going on here. Today we're going to talk about that story. And I'm not going to scream because when I scream loudly into this mic, there's a fail-safe device in the mic and it gets weird, and that's when it sounds really, really nutty, and then we have to quickly try to adjust it. But anyway, we're going to go in Mark chapter 5. We're going to begin reading with verse 1. And we're going to talk about the time that Jesus came and he interacted with this man that was demon-possessed and what he did. It begins in verse 1. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a certain man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. The man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from the distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, Come out of this man, you impure spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported to the town and the countryside. The people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons, sitting there dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the men who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and the people were amazed. Jesus and his disciples have gone across the Sea of Galilee and went from Israel to this area which was dominated by Gentiles. He came because he wanted to proclaim his truth. I think he came across knowing that he was going to have this opportunity with this man, and it was going to be short-lived. But even here at the very beginning of his ministry, remember who Jesus was sent to. Who was he sent to? Anybody? Huh? The Jews, first and foremost. And yet, all throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus interacting with Gentiles and showing them the love and the mercy of God. And this is one of those instances. So let's take a look at Jesus and the demon-possessed man. First thing I want us to see, just to look at the possessed man. What's his life situation, okay? It says he's living in the tombs. He's homeless. He's living in a graveyard, in the caves that are used for tombs in the graveyard, because he couldn't live among civilized society because he was crazy. That he can break the iron chains that they would put him in. Now, we live in a culture and a society that does not believe in the supernatural, doesn't believe in things like demons. That doesn't change the reality that there are supernatural forces. We live in a culture where Satan's better off just pretending he doesn't exist. Because more people are fooled into, well, I don't need this God thing. I'm doing okay on my own. You know, this all just made up story anyway. But that doesn't change the fact that demons are still at work in the background. We may not see this kind of thing very often, although we do see some of the externals, don't we? You know, we see people that are crazy. We see people that are homeless, living in odd places. You know, it's interesting. Through the work at Joanna House and Salvation Army this last year, we've become so much more aware of how many people live in a homeless situation in Shelbyville. You know, you wouldn't think in Shelbyville, it's not that big. We don't have that many people. And yet, there's a lot of that. And oftentimes, like this guy, it's because of something going on in their lives, oftentimes drugs or alcohol. But they're unable to integrate into the rest of the culture. And we see great strength. I mean, I'm sure all of you have heard stories of people, you know, loaded up on PCP or some other drug who have strength beyond what a normal person can take, and some little guy is wrestled down by 6 police officers because that's what it takes to get him down. You have this man who's hurting. He's desperate. Matter of fact, the Bible tells us he was actually hurting himself. He was taking the rocks, and he was cutting himself, and he would cry out in the middle of the night. You know, talk about a creepy picture, a great Hollywood movie, right? This guy who lives out in the cemetery at night would go up in the hills, and he would howl and cry out in a great voice and run around cutting himself with rocks. Here was a desperate, desperate man. The demons had total control. But you know what's interesting? The demons recognized Jesus. It says while he was still far off, he got out of the boat, and from across the field or wherever he happened to be, across that graveyard, he recognized who Jesus was. Not because the man knew, he'd never been there before, but because the demons knew. This man was in desperate shape. And so the demons take charge, and they try to negotiate. The demons, they come rushing forward, and they throw themselves at Jesus' feet. Now, they didn't do this to worship him. Oftentimes when we talk about throwing ourselves at the feet of Jesus or lying prostrate before him, we talk about a state of worship where we're coming into his presence and we recognize that we don't deserve his love and grace, and we just lay ourselves before him and say, Lord, whatever you want, do in my life. This is not what the demons were doing. The demons recognized Jesus as a greater power. They recognized that Jesus had the power and the authority to destroy them on the spot. And so they came and tried to preempt that, to come in and to manipulate Jesus, and maybe to get away from this greater power that stood before them, you know. So they threw themselves at his feet. And we see in verse 8 that it says that Jesus commanded the demons to leave. He told the demons they're going to have to leave. And so they try to escape it. They try to work around it. They try to negotiate. They try to gain control. Oh, you're the Son of the Most High God. Now, is that true? It is, yes, absolutely, it's true. He is the Son of the Most High God. But the demons aren't saying that to worship him like we might. They're saying that because they think if I name who he is. See, in ancient cultures, if you knew the real name of a person, you could have control over them through witchcraft and through sorcery and these other kinds of things. So if I just know his real name. So the demons they're going to pull that trick out of the book. I'm going to call him by his real name. I'm going to identify who he is. And maybe then I'll have power over him. Meh. Didn't work. Right? They call him by name, the Son of the Most High God. And they realized that it wasn't going to work, so they started pleading with him. Well, we know you're here. We know that you could destroy us, but please don't torture us. Don't torture us. It's not our time. Now, can we just step back a moment and ask this question? What were the demons doing before Jesus showed up? What were they doing? They were torturing this poor guy. Please don't punish us. Please don't destroy. See, they didn't want to be sent away from the area. There's some that believe that demons find connection to local areas. That could be true. There's an awful lot about demons that we don't know. It could be that they were afraid of being sent off into the abyss. See, demons have good theology. They understand what's coming based on what God has spoken. They know that what we struggle sometimes to really hold on to, demons know God is good for his word. And if he said it, he's going to do it. And so they know their final destination, and they were crying out, don't send us there. And they're trying to negotiate with them. And so Jesus takes a step back, as it were, and he asks them, what's your name? We are legion, for we are many. Maybe they're trying to bluster. You ever seen someone like that? Somebody who's in a weak position? And so in order to try to intimidate the other person, kind of pretend like, well, I'm really the one who's got the strength here. I'm the one who's in control here. You don't want to mess with me. We are legion. Now, a legion was about 6,000 men. So I don't think that the I don't think that the demons were trying to identify exactly how many demons there were, but the point was there was a whole bunch. And it was enough to fill 2,000 pigs. So in other words, this guy is not even just dealing with a single demon. He's dealing with a whole flock of them. A whole crowd of demons in there torturing him and destroying him. Jesus doesn't pursue that line of naming names. I think Jesus just wanted the people around to recognize what a massive, massive thing this was. This is going to take spiritual power beyond anything that they could even imagine. This is way beyond what somebody can do. Thousands of demons. Here's the main point. Jesus' power has power over every other power. I don't care what you're facing today. Jesus' power is greater than any other power out there. All those mountains that we see that loom up before us and we can't imagine how are we going to get over this thing? How are we going to get to the other side? How can we possibly make this thing happen? Jesus is greater. Whether it's sickness in our body, whether it's relationship issues, whether it's frustrations that we have at work, whatever the thing is, the power of Jesus Christ is greater. Man, if he can kick 6,000 demons out of some poor dude, he can handle your problem and mine. The same power that raised Christ from the dead dwells in us. Wouldn't that be pretty cool, huh? Wouldn't that be great to have the ministry of raising from the dead? You know, go hang out at funeral homes. Hey, wait a minute. Don't embalm this one. I got it. That's the kind of power we're talking about. That the power of God. So, again, what that tells me is there's nothing out there that can possibly take me away from the power and the love of Christ, because his power is greater than any other power. So what does he do? He sends the demons into the pigs. So we have Jesus and the possessed pigs. Jesus sends the demons into the pigs, or I guess technically he grants them their wish. This huge herd. Now, a typical herd of pigs at this time would have been, a couple of dozen, 3-4 dozen maybe. So a crowd of 2,000 pigs is a lot of pigs. And there were pig herders that were there that were watching over these pigs, because they're the ones that ran back to the village to tell everybody what happened. And the demon said, don't destroy us. Don't send us out of the area. Send us into the pigs instead.